This time of year they release their archives or the records. In the UK they sometimes wait 30 years to release public records and sometimes 20 years. And in Ireland it's usually 30 years and they'll tell you what such a one said or what the other one said. But it's too long anyway to have any impact. Now, a clever person, I'm not saying I'm one, but a clever person doesn't need the release of secrets to know what's going on. There are ways to assess what's going on from the available information supplied by your ears, by your eyes, by all forms of media, by internet, by everything, and by word of mouth. I'm sure during the Civil War, no one had an idea what was happening in America when the American Civil War was happening. Yet if you bought a paper here in Ireland, you would know there was something going on. And if you had a good imagination, you could probably imagine all the mayhem and the cutting off of legs and limbs and death and everything else. And you'd wonder how did such a new country end up in that position. It's the same today in Ukraine. We can imagine what's going on. We don't actually need to be there, and we can get snippets of information and we can collate it and put it in a way that we have an idea. Now, one of the things in your lifetime, if you are ever asked to guess a price or a figure or anything, do it the best you can. You'll usually get it wrong, but always give a figure and never give a figure ending in 0. So what I'm saying to you here on this bit of paper here, which is already scribbled on, folks, is I was asked once, some fella was after buying a house and he says, what did I pay for it? And way back then, sorry, I have a bit of a cold, I said 48,000, and I was wrong. He had given more than that. He had given 55,000 or 55.5 or whatever, and that was all right. But sometime later, I was out with another man, and that lad happened to be there, and this other fellow was after buying a house, and I said, how much did you pay for it? Guess. And this time, I guessed. It was a smaller house, 38,750. Now, all I did there is you never give 38,000. Nobody ever pays an accurate figure. They always get a wee bit off. And I said you paid 38,750. And he was driving the car and he damn near went across the ditch, because he had a deal with the auctioneer and the other party that this was a secret. And I had hit the nail exactly on the head. But what he didn't know was I had got it wrong several times. But if you give an exact figure, you'll be wrong all the time. You always give a figure close to the even figure, but a bit less. Because most deals are always some bit of cash back or something else. Do you understand what I'm saying? And of course, you never tell them how you guessed it, and you'll know the minute you say it if you're near the mark or not. You'll know if you're near the mark or not. And if you're right, you build on it, and if you're wrong, you forget about it, so you only guess it. Nobody knows that you got it wrong 10 times before, maybe 100 times, but you're bound to get it nearly right an odd time. There was once I was in company with a man that I knew well, and I had nothing in common with him at all. He was a golf player, which I'm not, and was having a cup with him, but there was other things we had in common, and I had to meet him anyway. And he worked for a big state organisation. We'd say it's a hospital department, or something to do with the military or the army or the navy, or maybe a housing department, a corporation, something like that. I can't give the exact thing it was, but I knew roughly how many staff were in this thing, and I had a rough idea from hearing him talking before. Now, what he may not have known, that when he told me stuff before, it registered in my head, but I never asked him to repeat it. I just kept it there in a store in my head, and I had a wee bit of a picture of what he was at. Now, I'm just looking for a bit of paper here. Sorry. So we're having a bit of a meal and a chat about other things, and we had relations in that in common, but we had nothing else. And he says to me, you know what I was at the last year? And I'm a busy man. The department I work for take me away, and I'm one of the bosses, and made me count exactly how much it cost to run the department last year. I say, that's ridiculous. Could they not get some young one to do it? No, it had to be a person in management that knew the score. And say, that's ridiculous. So he says, probably some civil servant demanded to know this, and they called the shots. I spent a whole month with staff figuring it out, and I was warned to be absolutely secret. The staff to put in the price. Now I says, did you count Tipp-Ex? Yes. Did you count rubbers? Yes. Pencils? Yeah. Pens? So was there a big difference in the pencils and the pens? But he says there was a lot more pens than pencils. What about stationery? Yes. And I know that in all government departments, 85% of the stationery is thrown in the dump. The stationery in Irish government departments is supplied by stationery providers, big registers and everything. And they get paid by the thickness of the book, like this computer. A big thick leather bound book could fetch them 300. But there's already 5,000 of them in the store. So every year they send down these, they bill it to the hospital or the Garda station or the military station or the fire service, and they fill up the place, and the staff there have to get the old ones and dump them out in the dump, and then let the new ones come in. That's Ireland. I don't know, is that everywhere else? They have everything except the thing you want. It's a bit like going into shops. They always have loads of what you don't want, and the thing you want can't be got, and they haven't the intelligence to understand they should be ordering more of what's in demand. But that's another issue. But anyway, he was saying, you know, I have sworn to secrecy. I don't want to know any, but I do know, so I know exactly what you paid. So I was bluffing. He looked at me. I'd go out with you. Now, today, just before you check it again, all that, all right. Oh, I know what it cost. Guess it. So I said this. I thought of it for a while. It took me a while, and he had to go out to the toilet, and he was on somebody else was talking to him, and I kept thinking in my head, and I said, like, there's that much staff. There'd be maybe 400 staff. You know, they'd be getting an average of 45,000 and all of that. Now, I was good on the head too. But anyway, it was shortly after I did my degree course, and the head was good for figures at that time. I said 11 million. Now, this mightn't be exactly right. Please understand. I'm just making the video. 11,340,000, no 151 plus 41 cent. You see the key. It wasn't going to be 11 million exactly, and the normal thing is to say 11 million, about 11 million. That lets him off. I give him the whole shebang. Now, undoubtedly, on many previous occasions, I got such stuff wrong. But I'm a good assessor. I'm good at assessing, and you become good at assessing over as life progresses. Well, by the hokey, the jaw dropped off him. And he began to think that somebody of a small number had squealed, and I had heard it. This highly confidential information about which he was sworn to secrecy was in the head of me, a Cavan farmer. A farmer. I wasn't exactly accurate. But I said to him, it's hard to remember identical figures. I said, I'm right about the 3.34 million, but I know, you know, that's a bit, you're talking about chicken feed here and final figures and everything else. But that's, I began to see he was alerted. I said 3.34 million, and I was thinking it was 3.32 million or something. But I said, within a short amount, that's what it was. And the more he looked amazed, the more I said, that's it. I'd find out that in 10 minutes. How do you know all that? Oh, in case I have my sources, I know well what's going on. It shook him. It shook him. And I would say he went off and he was ringing. I'm after talking to a man who knows the whole thing. That's a confidence trick. That's a confidence trick. And it's the same with the release of records. We know damn well what they're saying on the phone. We know the conversations between that idiot Leo Varadkar, Micheál Martin, Mad Ryan. We know they're airheads. All that's going on there is airheads. And the civil service are getting promoted by them, and only airhead civil servants are getting promoted. Anyone with half a brain, that lets it be known, will not get promoted, and anyone with brains will be seen as a threat. A fellow like me in any walk of life, in the military, in the medical profession, possibly, unless it's private, in the Gardaí or anything like that, will be seen as a threat, because I would be keeping down the retards, the half-retarded idiots that can get up and become high officers and become in big positions. Now and again, you do have some good ones, and you can't generalize entirely, but you can assess. You shouldn't be going around in your life wondering what's happening. You should be able to assess what's happening. You should be thinking, who's going to get that job? Who's going to get this job? What's going to happen there? And thinking on the phone. The ideal thing would be to bug their offices. It's illegal. I'm making no statement on that, of course. I would never admit such a thing publicly. But that's not to say there isn't a bit of different in me in ways. But what I used to do in Nottingham was say I had them bugged. And that was as bad as saying you do it. So if you want to scare someone, say, I bugged your office for a couple of months there. Let them sue all the leg, they'll not find much. But that's the thing. I told you before, and I made a video, there was a meeting in Cavan, Kilmer Hotel, a long time ago, when Goodman International was trying to take over Lakelands Dairies. There was a big vote by the shareholders, and there was 2 presentations, and these people were kept out. And a man was hired by Lakeland Dairies, and he went to London, and he hired recording equipment, and he bugged the rooms that the first presentation was given, and when the second team came in to give theirs, they knew exactly what had been said because they had it bugged. The Russians are great at that. The Chinese are good at it. I can't make any statement because there's not really much secret in my affair, in my things, but I know the cut of people. I know how they behave. I know what they'll do in various circumstances. And now again, I do drop a bit of a clagger and drop a bit of fun for a bit of crack. But that happened. I guessed the running of this whole part of a big department off the top of my head with just good assessment. And I got it so close that I put the skids under the man. He wasn't the best better of it. And he asked me several times, how did you know? And I've never told him, unless he sees this video. He's an old man now. I never told him. I would not let him know I guessed it. What happened when he went ringing? What did all his other people think? That's the way to have them. That's the way to have them. Give them the mushroom treatment, keep them in the dark, and feed them plenty of manure. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and comment underneath, and we'll see you back for something else. Something else. Never give an exact figure. Always guess a figure. Try to estimate it as best you can, and use any information you may have, and always tell them, I know what you paid for it. Don't say, I'll tell you what you paid for it. I know well what you paid for it. I know well what that was. I know well. You're not supposed to know. So when you tell them and you get it right, now and again, they're shocked. They don't know what to make of what's happening. It knocks them about. And in this world, the more of your associates in business and everything else, except your immediate family, who can't get a grip on what you're up to, the better for you. See you back. Bye. Good luck.